Well, hey there, everyone. How are we doing this morning, this afternoon? Afternoon for me, evening, other places in the world, depending on where you are watching. My name is Barron, and I am the Director of Skincare Research at Paula's Choice Skincare, where we discuss ingredients and their impact on skin quite a bit. Of course, not everyone in the company, but the people who I interface with most often, we are almost always talking in some fashion about ingredients. And so we thought it would be kind of fun for this month's live chat to go over the topic of some of our favorite ingredients. And they're not just some ingredients that the Paula's Choice team likes best. Some of them are actually personal favorites of mine as well. So I'm excited to dive into that with you. I have some fun facts about all of them. I would love to hear from you as I go through this chat what some of your favorite skincare ingredients are and why. Which ones have you really had success with? It's completely fine if they are not ingredients Paula's Choice isn't using, or at least not at the moment. Hopefully you haven't had tremendous success with ingredients that are known to irritate skin, because that wouldn't be good for the health of your skin in the long run. There was a pre-show question that I'm trying to post a response to, and it's not letting me. I wonder why it's not letting me post the response. Oh, looks like I just did. Okay. Did it work? I think it did. So, Katie, yes, I included an overview. Let me know if you can see that or not on your question regarding spironolactone for acne. That's an interesting medication. Definitely is prescribed to women more than men because one of the things that it does, and the reason that it can be helpful for hormonal acne in women, is that it is anti-androgen. And for some women, when their androgen levels get too high, their tendency to get acne and have oily skin increases. They may also see increased facial or body hair compared to what they had before. It's never a bad idea to talk to your healthcare provider. First of all, absolutely talk to your healthcare provider about any medications you're considering, or a pharmacist. They can be a good place to start. But if you think that your problem, your health issue may be hormonally related, it's not a bad idea to get a baseline read on your hormones. For example, my doctor, because I just turned 50, my doctor in my last round of tests, I swear, the older you get, the more blood they want for all kinds of stuff. And thankfully, everything turned out okay. But one of the tests that we did was testosterone, which is the primary male hormone. And I said to him, I said, I'm not experiencing any symptoms of having too much testosterone or not enough. And he said, that's fine, but when you reach your fifth decade, it's a good idea for guys to have a baseline so that you know where, let's say it falls within the normal range, you know what your normal is, because it's a rather wide range for that particular hormone. So now we know that, and we can test down the road, but particularly if you are a woman and you are dealing with acne, particularly in your adult years, like 30 plus, not a bad idea to have your androgen levels checked and to see if they are higher than they should be. Because there may be, for example, you could be dealing with other underlying health issues like polycystic ovarian syndrome that you absolutely want to know about sooner rather than later. So, without further ado, let's get into it with some of the ingredients that we love, we at Paula's Choice. And starting out our list, probably not too terribly surprising, would be retinol. And I would add to that the emerging category of retinoids. So retinol, with the OL ending, that's the classic, that's the OG. There, just like there are derivatives of vitamin C, or what's known as vitamin C esters, that break down to ascorbic acid in skin. And therefore they have the same qualities, and some would argue better qualities, better stability, better results than pure vitamin C. We'll talk about vitamin C later in the show. There are retinoid derivatives that have mostly been developed to either, well, I mean, in essence, they've been developed to overcome some of the shortcomings that original retinol can have. This is not true for everyone, but some people have a tolerability issue to retinol, again, OL ending, regardless of what strength they're using. Then again, a lot of people tolerate retinol just fine, or they need to do a little bit of experimenting until they find not only the concentration that works best for their skin, but the frequency of use. Some people do well applying a retinol product once a day at night, every single night. Other people find that the best cadence for them may be every other night, or even just a couple of times per week. But those newer retinoids, like the retinol propionate that we use in our triple active total repair serum, there is retinaldehyde, which is also known as retinal. There is the hydroxypenocolone retinoate, and there's some even newer ones that I'm aware of that are in development. And all of them, though, they for the most part, they deliver the same overall benefits as retinol. The differences are primarily going to be around stability. You don't have to do as much formulary work to ensure stability and maintain the level of efficacy that you want from the time you start using the product until it's depleted. And to some degree, they can offer better overall tolerability. But it doesn't mean that if you are successfully using a retinol product right now that you need to rush out and try a new one, because retinol is still where it's at. So some of its benefits include reducing signs of aging. It stimulates collagen production, which of course in turn is going to help reduce fine lines, wrinkles. It's going to improve skin firmness. It's going to improve resiliency. Retinol is also pretty well known for improving skin tone and texture. And the primary way it does that is it promotes normal, or it helps to normalize cell differentiation, so that the process that the skin cells take as they move from the lower layer to the upper layer of skin, those cells are staying the course the entire way up, as opposed to either getting distracted and taking a detour or just stopping before they get to the finish line. And what you will see as a result of that improved differentiation process is going to be brighter, smoother, and more even-toned skin. So we definitely like it for that. It can reduce blemishes. Retinol helps unclog pores. It helps reduce, and believe it or not, inflammation, and it minimizes breakouts and blemishes, because inflammation is at the core of most breakout-related issues. When you are dealing with clogged pores, meaning it's a clog, you get the bump, or it's a blackhead, which means it's not forming a little visible texture change. You're seeing a color change at the top of the pore. Those are not inflammatory by nature. That is more about having too much oil, dead skin cells, other follicular debris in that pore lining, and it gets all mushed together. It gets stuck. It can't move up to the surface the way it should. The oil can become thicker, which makes the pore much more likely to clog. So all of those things can contribute to that, and retinol can help to normalize that process as well. It also fades hyperpigmentation. It can help diminish dark spots, and especially dark spots caused by sun damage, by targeting melanin production. And it basically works via tyrosinase inhibition. Tyrosinase is an enzyme in skin that is necessary for melanin to be made. When too much tyrosinase is stimulated, too much melanin is made, and then it also is more haphazardly distributed in the skin. And that is another thing that retinol can help with, is it can help to influence the proper deposition of melanin in skin. So rather than getting clumps of melanin that we see as a dark spot And it could be like a concentrated spot. It could be a more patchy discoloration. It could just show up as the early signs of uneven skin tone. But again, retinol is just this great cell communicating normalizer. It also, speaking of normalizing, it helps to normalize pore size, and it does this by reducing oil and helping to normalize, again, that differentiation, which is also going to affect your surface cell turnover rate. This is a different process from what leave-on exfoliants do. Just to be clear, sometimes retinol is described as an exfoliant. It isn't, at least if you have an understanding of how AHAs and BHAs work. I'll talk about that later. What a shock. AHA and BHA ingredients are some of the favorites of Paula's choice. So there's just this whole laundry list that retinol does really well. One of the things that it does to help make pores appear smaller is that it can target inflammatory mediators and specific pathways in skin that trigger excess oil production. We know that unchecked inflammation, which can also be triggered by topical irritants, can cause the oil gland to produce more oil than it normally would, and it can also impact the quality of the oil that it produces. The balance of fatty acids in that oil can be tipped so that the fatty acids that in the wrong ratio can cause further inflammation, those become more prominent. And so it just becomes this vicious cycle. That's one of the reasons why using an alcohol-based toner, and I'm talking about like a denatured alcohol, or I've known people, they've told me that they use rubbing alcohol to degrease their skin, and they literally do say degrease. You know, they got to get that shine, and it works short term. Their skin doesn't look too shiny for maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but in no time, all of that oil is back. The skin's been irritated. Skin cells have been killed, literally killed. The skin's barrier components have been damaged, so it's just not a good way to go. The overall anti-inflammatory effects of retinol, the exact mechanism of action hasn't been definitively proven yet, but it's believed that what's happening is that, again, in its role as this great normalizer or this equalizer, it helps to promote balance between the pro-inflammatory cytokines and the anti-inflammatory cytokines. Cytokines are essentially messaging and signaling molecules within our skin and within our body that control the level of inflammation. Because there's types of inflammation that can be bad. There are types of inflammation that can be good, such as the inflammation that occurs when we cut ourselves. That inflammation that brings powerful inflammatory cytokines to the site of a wound that help kill, because they're, again, these are just strong stuff, but it's short-lived and it's tightly orchestrated as the skin starts to heal. But what those cytokines can do is keep a check on any of the external pathogens and other bad guys that would normally come in, and you've cut yourself, your skin, it's vulnerable to infection, and that is where those inflammatory cytokines set up shop and say, nope, you are not getting past us. And then the healing process beneath that can begin, and then eventually those inflammatory cytokines dwindle in number because of the anti-inflammatory cytokines that come in during another half of the healing process, and so on and so forth. So it's very remarkable, really, if you think about it, how well these various substances can connect with, communicate with various parts of our skin to just help keep things on track. The other thing about retinol is that it may also interfere or otherwise interact with key inflammatory pathways that drive signs of sensitivity. So yes, retinol can even be suitable for people with rosacea. A lot of people with rosacea think they absolutely have to stay away from retinol. This is not to say that some people with rosacea just can't tolerate retinol. That's absolutely true as well. But retinol is not an off-limits ingredient if you're struggling with rosacea, and it may actually, because again, the great equalizer, it may play a role in helping to soothe some of those signs and signs of sensitivity related to rosacea, as well as the discomfort that many people experience. One caution I would say, though, if you're dealing with rosacea and you're considering a retinoid product, whether it's prescription or over the counter, talk to your doctor and make sure that it is compatible and helpful to use it with whatever other prescription products you are using to manage rosacea. Okay, next one on the list. Oh, I could also say that retinol can help in its role as an antioxidant. All vitamins, of which vitamin A, retinol, is one of them, can help thwart oxidative damage that can begin in the uppermost layers of skin or right at the surface and work its way down. And it could be accurately said that as long as you are protecting your skin with a broad spectrum sunscreen, that retinol also helps to offset future signs of aging. And for the fun fact about it, I did not know this. This is a recent aha moment for me, but under UV light in its pure form, retinol emits a blue fluorescence. And this property is used by scientists and researchers to track how retinol moves through the skin and how it interacts with different cell types. This fluorescence, come to find out, it comes from the double bonds in the retinol molecule that get excited in the presence of UV light. These same bonds are also crucial for retinol's ability to bind to receptors in skin cells and trigger the various benefits that we see from it in the mirror. So that's kind of cool. Next up is going to be vitamin C. Vitamin C can impact skin's appearance by brightening skin tone. It helps to inhibit melanin production, which can help fade those widespread, many different types of hyperpigmentation, resulting in a more even, a more radiant looking complexion. Get your glow back, help to banish dullness. It reduces hyperpigmentation by interfering with melanin synthesis or the creation of melanin in those uppermost layers. And vitamin C can help lighten existing dark spots and help prevent the formation of new ones due to its potent antioxidant action. One of the things that can happen in the skin when free radical damage is left unchecked. You know, skin has what's called an endogenous or naturally occurring supply of antioxidants, of which vitamin C is the primary one. Other ones are like superoxide dismutase, which is an enzymatic antioxidant, as well as catalase, another enzymatic antioxidant. They all play various roles in helping to diffuse or interrupt the detrimental effects of different types of free radicals, those rogue molecules floating around that they are unpaired, they are looking to join up with an electron. However, when they do that, they do it by stealing an electron from a healthy, intact molecule, which causes that molecule to then go rogue and become a free radical on its own. So that is that is why sometimes researchers refer to free radical damage as a cascade effect. Or a domino effect, because once it starts, it's harder to get it under control. So the endogenous supply of antioxidants in your skin can become depleted with increasing sun damage, environmental exposure, pollutant exposure, certain skin disorders, the passage of time that can be impacted by your diet, and on and on and on. So replenishing that supply of vitamin C topically can become very important, because we know many types of discolorations, oxidative damage from those rogue molecules known as free radicals plays a role in their formation, in their stubbornness, and their inability to go away unless proper steps are taken and used consistently to help get skin back on track. Vitamin C is also well known to boost or help boost collagen production, which again, just like retinol, is going to lead to a reduction in wrinkles and fine lines. You may have heard or read that retinol and vitamin C cannot be used at the same time. That is untrue. It is a myth. Lots of studies have looked at the synergy between those two ingredients when they're applied at the same time and found that they have a reinforcing effect on each other. They don't cancel each other out. The only potential concern around using them at the same time is if your skin reacts negatively to that combination. Because for some people, particularly if the strength of retinol or vitamin C is on the higher side, applying them at the same time may not be the best idea. You may get a bit of an irritant response. That is never the goal. That doesn't mean that the ingredients are being deactivated, or that there's some chemical reason where this clash occurs and all of a sudden this inflammation erupts and your skin is just in sad shape. The solution, if you experience that, is one of two things. Either separate use of those two bioactive products, or consider using a reduced concentration of one or both of them. And you can start with, say, dropping the vitamin C percentage, see what that does. If it doesn't seem to make a difference, you can pretty much safely point to the amount of retinol as the offending ingredient and reduce the strength of retinol and experiment from there. Vitamin C, it can also, believe it or not, hydrate and help plump the skin. So it's not that is kind of the purview of potent humectants like hyaluronic acid. And while vitamin C is not directly a humectant, it indirectly promotes hydration by helping to support the skin's barrier function and collagen production, both of which are going to play a role in helping skin be better able to support and retain its natural levels of moisture. So that's where that comes from. Speaking of the barrier, because vitamin C does play a helpful role in collagen synthesis, that can in turn reinforce your skin's barrier, because collagen and the strength of it, the vitality of it, that is crucial for a healthy barrier. Of course, along with lipids like ceramides and cholesterol and free fatty acids, it's all part of a compartmental type picture that strengthens, reinforces, rebuilds, and helps visibly repair a damaged barrier. Lastly, vitamin C, just like retinol, can help reduce signs of inflammation. Some studies suggest that it may have anti-inflammatory properties, and it could potentially have a role in reducing those inflammation-mediated conditions like acne and rosacea. However, there isn't as strong of a line between that benefit and vitamin C improving those concerns as there is for retinol. Specific to retinol and the broader category of retinoids, there are numerous studies showing that prescription retinoids such as tretinoin and tazarotene and others can be very helpful for people struggling with acne, and they are approved specifically for that purpose. So the fun fact about vitamin C is that the skin has its own mechanisms to transport vitamin C. You often hear that vitamin C, particularly if it's pure ascorbic acid, because it's a water-soluble vitamin, it has a hard time penetrating or getting into or partitioning into the lipophilic or oil-rich areas of skin. But it turns out that there are specialized transporter proteins that shuttle small amounts of vitamin C deeper into the skin, where it can help exert its effects, maintain its stability. That is more or less how it has more of a bottom-up benefit, if you will, on helping to create firmer and smoother skin. And the other interesting fact is that keratinocytes, which are the living skin cells, can also play a transport and distribution organization type role with vitamin C and the skin. Ascorbic acid, there's also various formulary steps that can be taken to ensure better penetration and enhanced stability. But it's nice to know that even just applied neat, skin has its own methods, without us really having to think about it, of helping the vitamin C to get to where it needs to be in skin, while also keeping an adequate amount in skin's uppermost layers, which again, first line of defense, you want a potent antioxidant like vitamin C to be there and help your skin to remain healthy and better able to withstand environmental damage. Next up is niacinamide, also known as vitamin B3. It offers a variety of benefits, primarily by influencing various cellular processes and supporting skin's health. I often think of niacinamide as it's a theater term where someone is a triple threat. They can sing and dance and act. Niacinamide goes beyond that. There's like 8 or 9. It's pretty spectacular things that it can do. Some of its primary benefits are going to be an improved barrier function. It strengthens the skin barrier by promoting the production of ceramides, which are essential lipids that comprise upwards of 50% of skin's barrier, so that's pretty important. It has anti-inflammatory properties that soothe redness, help reduce signs of irritation associated with dry skin conditions. It could even be suitable for eczema-prone skin. And again, because other skin issues that a lot of people struggle with, like acne and rosacea, have inflammation at their core, niacinamide's ability to help quell that and reduce the visible signs of inflammation can also make it a really helpful ingredient for people who are struggling with those issues. It helps to minimize breakouts by, again, calming those underlying factors that drive the inflammation. And in that sense, it can help. It works really well with proven acne fighters like salicylic acid and benzoyl peroxide to help normalize skin. And again, keep that inflammation that's driving the acne formation, that kind of just is that catalyst for it, under control. Another great overall benefit of niacinamide in skin is that you're going to see enhanced skin texture and enhanced skin tone. Niacinamide interferes with melanin production and helps to fade dark spots and prevent new ones from forming, which is going to lead to a more even toned complexion. High concentrations of niacinamide, such as what we use in our 10% niacinamide booster. Also forgot to show off our C15 Super Booster, one of our best sellers. Might inhibit, so high concentrations of niacinamide might inhibit the proliferation of keratinocytes in the upper layers of the epidermis while stimulating their proliferation, kind of like, poking the bear, waking them up in the basal layer of the epidermis, and that's the area where new skin cells are formed. So this whole process could lead to a more balanced and controlled cell turnover process. That may also be one of the ways that it helps to reduce blemishes. Because for some people who struggle with blemishes, whether they're just clogged pores or regular grade acne, a process called hyperkeratinization is going on behind the scenes. And what that means is that too many skin cells are being produced at once, too quickly. They are piling up, and again, if the scene is set for other factors, you have all these skin cells, too much. Think of that I Love Lucy episode where they're at the chocolate factory and the candies on the conveyor belt just start going faster and faster and faster, and they can't keep up with what they're supposed to be doing. That's very much what happens with skin, except instead of those chocolates getting jammed in a machine, the skin cells that there are now just way too many of are getting gunked up in too much oil in the pore lining and other follicular debris, and that is the perfect storm for clogs to form. So niacinamide can help with that as well. It's a great antioxidant. It neutralizes free radicals and can scavenge different types of free radicals that contribute to premature aging and other signs of damage. Some studies suggest that niacinamide may boost collagen production, leading to firmer skin. I'll take it. I don't know anyone who doesn't want a little bit more firmness in their skin, particularly as we get past our 40s. The other interesting and fairly unique benefit of niacinamide is that whereas retinol and retinoids can play a role in helping to control excess oil production, niacinamide plays more of a regulatory role on the actual quality of the oil that is being produced. So I mentioned earlier that there are some fatty acids like arachidonic acid that can become inflammatory when the ratio of them in your skin's oil is out of whack. So you have too much arachidonic acid. Niacinamide can step in and signal the oil producing cells to start making better quality oil with the right ratio of fatty acids. So that, again, further takes down the inflammation, which is going to have widespread benefit for blemish-prone skin, for oily skin, clogged pores, rough texture. The fun fact about niacinamide is that it acts like a ligand or a ligand in skin, and that's essentially a coordination complex. So it binds to specific receptors on skin cells, and so these receptors are kind of like antenna. And when niacinamide binds to them, it sends signals that trigger various beneficial responses that occur within the cells. So another way to think about it is the niacinamide molecule is like the DJ, the receptors are the speakers, and the responses from the cells are the specific notes of music. So you've got the messages getting sent to the speakers. This is what's coming through. Play this. The speakers hear that message. They're like, okay, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to play those notes. And then those various notes are going out and telling skin, do this, make more of this, stop doing this, and so on. So I guess you could say by binding to these receptors, niacinamide essentially changes the tune within the cells, directing them to perform actions that benefit your skin's health and its appearance. Next up, there's only a few more of these. Don't worry, I know I'm talking fast. Is one of my personal favorites, azelaic acid, which is found at a 10% level in our azelaic acid booster. This is one of my secret weapon products for whenever my skin is looking or feeling a bit out of whack, or if I'm dealing with that rogue breakout. It's also amazing for post-breakout marks. I tend to get the kind, because of my complexion, my skin color, that are pink to red. If you have more melanin-rich skin, those marks tend to be anywhere from tan all the way down to black. Azelaic acid has that entire color spectrum covered. It will not make, if you're worried that if you have very dark skin and you're worried that using azelaic acid on your skin may have a bleaching effect for some, or it may cause more hyperpigmentation, it absolutely won't do that. It's a very safe and gentle ingredient for all skin colors to use, so I love it for that as well. Chiefly, it has various amounts of antimicrobial activity, so it can help play a role in reducing the overpopulation of certain bacteria on skin that can trigger or help perpetuate breakouts. It can help to control the it can help to normalize and maintain the levels of C. acnes bacteria within skin's uppermost layers. Everybody has that bacteria on their skin. There are different phylotypes or subtypes of C. acnes bacteria. Some are good, some are not so good. Some can go from good to bad, depending on what's going on with your skin's microbiome or its invisible barrier. Again, it very quickly gets complex, but azelaic acid steps in and basically helps to bring that mix back into balance, helps to reduce the acne-causing inflammatory C. acnes bacteria, so that the population of that is, again, it's normalized. So absolutely a common theme with all the ingredients I've been discussing so far that Paula's Choice likes so much is a normalizing effect on skin, improving its healthy appearance, strengthening its barrier, delivering antioxidant benefits, soothing, calming signs of irritation. All of those general categories of benefits for skin are going to help numerous skin types and numerous skin concerns, which is why I think ingredients like what we've been discussing here have such wide-ranging appeal. The other interesting aspect about azelaic acid is it has a modulating effect on anti-inflammatory or inflammatory pathways. So it can help downregulate or quiet pro-inflammatory substances, which is going to help calm redness, soothe irritation, and any type of discomfort that are associated with when skin is, let's just say, again, off balance. It's just out of whack, and something's not going right with it. Azelaic acid is just such a great normalizing ingredient, and unlike retinol, you really don't have to worry so much with azelaic acid of getting any sort of kickback from it. It's just, it's effective while being very, very gentle. And in fact, speaking of the gentleness, azelaic acid is absolutely suitable for rosacea-prone skin, and is in fact one of the ingredients that is most recommended for helping to control rosacea, rosacea's redness, rosacea's discomfort, as well as the skin texture changes that can occur when you have that condition. It also inhibits a transcription factor that can be found in skin's uppermost layers called NF-κB. And that transcription factor, NF stands for nuclear factor, it plays a role in fact, a central role in skin's inflammatory response. So by azelaic acid working to help interfere with its activation, that can further reduce signs of irritation or sensitivities within skin. So we like it for that as well. That transcription factor has roles to play in skin that can be positive, but it just needs to be in a little tiny itty bitty amounts, and then secreted at just the right time. When it's in overdrive, when it is doing when it's just getting too busy within the skin, that can drive ongoing signs of irritation and inflammation. So helping to reduce that is a very good thing. It also helps reduce excess. I talked a moment ago about overproliferation or hyperkeratinization. That is one of the ways it's believed to help reduce signs of blemishes, as it has a normalizing effect on that hyperkeratinization process, helping to prevent clogged pores and various other types of breakouts. It also promotes gentle exfoliation. Like alpha and beta hydroxy acids, azelaic acid loosens the bonds between dead skin cells, encouraging their shedding and leading to smoother, clearer skin, and potentially also just via that process, helping to minimize the look of enlarged pores, because again, you're getting rid of that built-up layer of spent cells that really should be shedding, but for whatever reason, it is not. What else is in terms of exfoliation? Azelaic acid can decrease desmosome adhesion. Desmosomes are structures that bind skin cells together. So they're almost like little links between skin cells. You've got the cell, and then you have these little like spider-like links that are holding the cells together. Azelaic acid can disrupt the activity of enzymes involved in the formation of desmosomes. That is going to weaken the bond and cause those dead cells, known as corneocytes, in the uppermost layers of skin to help to start shedding more normally. It also directly impacts the composition of those corneocytes, those dead cells, by altering the proteins and the lipids that hold them together. So when you loosen up, when you have this cohesiveness where they're just kind of like, clinging on, they don't want to let go even though they should, by azelaic acid stepping in to alter the cohesion of the proteins and the lipids, again, this is going to facilitate the detachment of those dead cells from the underlying surface and then contribute to that gentle exfoliating effect. Salicylic acid or beta hydroxy acid does this too, but it is a stronger approach overall. It has a higher pKa value than azelaic acid. Without getting too geeky, pKa value is just a measure of an acid's intensity. The lower the number, the more intense it is. It's kind of like a Richter scale type thing, where it's an earthquake of 3 is going to be much stronger than an earthquake of 5, but both are still earthquakes. You can use salicylic acid and azelaic acid at the same time. Salicylic acid or azelaic acid, again, it does have a cherolytic effect, but it is considered mild compared to salicylic acid. Another reason why I wouldn't tell somebody, particularly if they're dealing with a lot of breakouts and clogged pores and oiliness, to only use azelaic acid and skip the salicylic acid, like our 2% BHA liquid, is because azelaic acid is not lipid soluble. It cannot get that far into the pore lining, which is the magic of salicylic acid and its oil solubility, it really can get further down into the pore lining and help break up that clog. And without getting too graphic, the clog at the base of the pore can very much be like a hair clog in a sink drain. The kind that you have to use something pretty strong to break down that hair so that water runs freely through the drain once more. You can think of the pore lining and the clog that gets backed up, that causes that enlargement of the pore, that can cause whiteheads and blackheads to form, as being very much like that little clump of hair, even though it's dead skin cells, oil, and there are some tiny hairs in that mix. But it's the same principle at work. Just like niacinamide and vitamin C, azelaic acid plays a role in inhibiting the activity of that melanin-stimulating enzyme known as tyrosinase. It competitively inhibits it, meaning that it beats the ingredients or the substance. It's not really an ingredient. It's various substances in skin that enzyme needs to keep working. So it connects with the tyrosinase and helps kind of weaken its activity before those other molecules can get there. And that is going to result in less excess melanin being created. So that is one of the roles that azelaic acid can play in fading signs of hyperpigmentation. Just like I think all the other ingredients on the list that we've gone over so far, azelaic acid, the hits just keep coming. It is also an antioxidant. It absolutely is known to protect cells from oxidative damage, which is going to contribute to an overall healthier appearance. The fun fact about azelaic acid, it was first discovered in the 1950s as a byproduct of yeast fermentation. And initially, it wasn't used for skincare at all, but rather it was used as an antifungal medication. Interestingly, azelaic acid is also naturally produced by a yeast that lives on healthy skin. So it is very skin compatible. It does not, I don't think it's used much at all today, and it doesn't even have status really that I'm aware of as an antifungal. It's largely today considered more of an antimicrobial and an antioxidant, and as I discussed a moment ago, a mild keratolytic ingredient. There's a couple more that we're going to go over here. One is UV filters or sunscreen ingredients. Couldn't go through this show about some of our favorite ingredients without talking about these. I'm not going to be going over all of them in detail. I'm going to try to keep this more general, but suffice to say, UV filters and the daily use of products that contain them are foundational to not only having healthy skin, but a healthy body. Because we know that one of the things that can happen when skin is exposed unprotected to sun, particularly for prolonged periods of time, is that it eventually not only threatens and helps to break down skin's innate immune system by destroying or disabling what are called Langerhans cells, which are basically the little sentinels in skin that are running around trying to find and neutralize or disable, kill harmful pathogens before they can harm our overall body or have a negative effect on our skin. We know, though, that unprotected exposure to UV light goes on to damage the body's innate immune system. So it's this really interesting paradox, because on the one hand, you could certainly argue convincingly that the sun has some amount of therapeutic benefits for overall health, that sense of mind-body wellness, their circadian rhythm and our need as human beings to be in daylight and to soak up the sun. But there's far more negative that happens as a result of that when you're not protecting your skin in the process. So what I'm getting at is that you can get the mood boosting, mental stabilizing effects of being outside on a beautiful day, of being out in the sun, of being in direct light without harming your skin in the process. So that's great. The two types of sunscreen ingredients are largely categorized as mineral and synthetic, and when properly formulated, both are equally protective. further reassuring, at least I think so, is that each can be included in formulas created for every skin type. So you don't necessarily have to pigeonhole yourself into one group or the other, and there are certainly a fair amount of sunscreens on the market that utilize both. What is the difference between mineral and synthetic sunscreen ingredients? First of all, mineral sunscreen ingredients are sometimes described as being natural. They are not. They have natural sources in terms of the minerals like zinc oxide from which they are derived, but the process that takes that natural mineral and converts it into a UV filter that is going to work in a aesthetically pleasing manner, it's going to remain stable and effective in a skincare product, is anything but natural. There are so it could definitely be stated that the end result of taking that natural ingredient and creating a UV filter, you end up with something that was once natural but is now more synthetic. And that's fine. Synthetic is not an evil or bad word when it comes to skincare. So really the differences between these mineral and synthetic sunscreens, they're not about which type is more effective. It really comes down to personal preference and how sensitive your skin is. Mineral sunscreens are definitely considered the gentlest options. They are not likely to sting or burn if they get too close to the eye. They are not likely to sting or burn if they get into your eye, such as from sweating. The so-called synthetic UV filters definitely can have that tendency for many people. Again, it doesn't make them bad. It's just one of the potential cons about them to be aware of. So there are only two mineral sunscreens, at least that have global approval, and that would be titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. Zinc oxide is used far more often because of its superiority in the UVA range. However, newer studies have shown that titanium dioxide is not to be written off. It does absolutely work into the UVA range, but in comparison with zinc oxide, it tends to be more robust or stronger in the UVB range. Zinc oxide works in the UVB range. It's sort of about, where if you're looking at these two mineral filters, where does each one shine the brightest? They're both good. You can use them separately. You can use them in sunscreens together. You can layer different mineral sunscreens if you prefer to top up your sun protection that way. That's great. But they both provide broad spectrum protection, and they work in skin's uppermost layers to absorb and to a lesser extent deflect and scatter the sun's harmful rays, UVA, UVB. They're sometimes referred to, I mentioned natural, but they're sometimes also called physical sunscreens or physical blockers, although it's not really a factual representation of how they work. That was once thought to be true. People would say that it's sort of like putting a blanket on your skin. It's not quite that ironclad, shall we say. The synthetic sunscreens, there are over 30 of them approved in various markets, all of which absorb into the top layers of skin, where they work like mineral sunscreens by scattering and deflecting the sun's harmful rays and by converting UV rays into harmless heat energy and deactivating them. Again, this is a process, a chemical reaction that happens on skin surface very quickly. You do not feel it happening. Common synthetic sunscreen ingredients, oxybenzone, which is being used less and less these days, octinoxate, octisalate, and avobenzone are probably the most often used, with octocrylene being another one because it's an effective UV filter in its own right, but it also has a really nice stabilizing effect on avobenzone, which is one of the more vulnerable UVA actives. But that's often why you will see, when you're looking at a list of ingredients in a sunscreen, avobenzone and octocrylene. They're kind of a power couple. So I kind of went over the pros and cons of each type of the UV filters. Some of the synthetic UV filters, like if too much octinoxate or too much oxybenzone is used, they are oily by nature, whereas the mineral filters are almost always supplied as a powder that then needs to be dispersed in an emulsion. there can absolutely be aesthetic differences. There are aesthetic differences between the mineral and the synthetic UV filters. The mineral filters, because they are powders and they are have an absorbent nature, they tend to leave more of a matte finish. Some people may describe that as flat or chalky looking. Mineral filters, if they are the sole UV filters used in a sunscreen and you have a medium to dark or very dark skin tone, you may see a white cast. Depending on the depth of your skin color, that may look a bit purple to lavenderish, or even like a blue-gray. Again, it depends on the overall formula. What is the percentage of the mineral filters? Are the mineral filters the only ones there? Or are they combined with some synthetic filters? The advantages of that, particularly for darker skin tones, is that you can get away with reaching SPF 30, SPF 40, maybe even SPF 50 with a lower load of the mineral actives, which means much less of a chance of a visible white cast, and yet you're still getting robust broad spectrum protection. Again, the synthetic UV filters, most of them do have a slightly oily to emollient feel to them in their raw state. So that's not to say that every synthetic sunscreen is going to feel slick or greasy or heavy on skin. There are plenty of them out there, including those from Paula's Choice, that do not, but there are other formulary steps that must be taken in order to deal with the undesirable aesthetics that can pop up when you have a higher load of those actives. So we took those steps. This is one of our really, really nice sunscreens in our Resist line, the Skin Restoring Moisturizer SPF 50. That is strictly made with those synthetic UV filters, but it has a just gorgeous, creamy, kind of souffle-like aesthetics and this nice, soft, supple finish. Okay, now for the fun fact about UV filters. The first successful sunscreen wouldn't be sunscreen at all by today's standards, but we would consider it a tanning oil. In 1935, a French chemist named Eugene Schuller, who was the founder of L'Oreal, created a product called Ambre Solaire, which translates to amber sun. And this product's goal wasn't to protect from the sun like modern day sunscreens do. Instead, its goal or its claim was that it increases your skin's ability to tan while reducing its tendency to burn. It contained a UV filter called benzyl salicylate. And one of the ways that the salicylate group of UV filters works is by attenuating UV-induced inflammation in skin. So in doing so, if you're someone of my skin color or even lighter, the first sign that you're getting too much sun is your skin starts turning pink. So when you have a darker skin tone, you're going to see signs of tanning, but it's probably going to be more subtle. It's might need to notice a little color change, but it's a longer term process where when you have less melanin in your skin and you're getting that inflammation, you're going to see that pink to red come up pretty quickly. The salicylates, because they're inherently anti-inflammatory, can reduce the amount, prolong the time it takes for that to happen, which is, again, part of their sunscreen ability. We talked a little bit about exfoliation, the acids, and we're running short on time, and I want to get to the question, so I'm just going to skip to the fun fact about AHAs and BHAs. I know I've done shows about hydroxy acids and exfoliation, so you can look those up on our YouTube channel for a deep dive on that topic. But I thought this was interesting. Recent research suggests that some AHAs, such as mandelic acid, that's the focal ingredient in our newest addition to the Skin Perfecting Exfoliants line, 6% mandelic acid, 2% lactic acid. Mandelic acid can penetrate deeper into the skin and interact with specific receptors that send signals within cells that in turn promote enhanced ceramide composition and help to increase the population of ceramides in the skin. There's a fuzzy floating right in front of me. Little hair. That's very annoying. Why this is so exciting is because a lot of people are nervous about using leave-on acid-based exfoliants out of concern that they're going to damage skin's barrier. We have now emerging evidence that AHAs like mandelic acid do just the opposite. They help where just like glycolic and lactic acid can help boost skin's hyaluronic acid supply, mandelic acid can have a positive influence on skin's ceramides, which, as I mentioned earlier, are a vital part of skin's barrier. So I thought that was very exciting, and I thought it was an apt or timely discovery because of the fact that we just launched our very first product with mandelic acid that has very quickly become a daily staple for me. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's every other day. This is the guy that I use at night, alternating nights with the Calm 1% BHA lotion exfoliant, which was recently reformulated when we updated our Calm collection, and I just love the texture of that exfoliant. It's just amazing. So let's get to a few questions here in the last 5 minutes. Katie, again, I posted, or hopefully you're seeing that randomized controlled trial link I sent you on spironolactone for female acne. Aphrodite says, hello, Brian. What do you think about growth factors and copper peptides? I'm leery about growth factors. If we're talking putting pure growth factors on skin, I think the jury is still out on just how effective they can be, whether skin is actually utilizing them, and if skin is actually utilizing them, is it doing what it should be doing with them, or are they potentially having negative effects downstream? I'm more interested in various plant callus lysates, various plant extracts, and peptides that can influence growth factors in skin that are naturally occurring and can have that influence in a more controlled manner. And to some extent, copper peptides do play that role. In the literature, they're largely looked at as being collagen stimulators and helping to heal skin when it is wounded. There are some incompatibilities when thinking about using copper peptides. There's a potential interaction with ascorbic acid. So most you would probably run into the recommendation to not apply copper peptides and vitamin C products at the same time. It's mostly because one of the ways vitamin C can help reduce discolorations to help fade them is that it interacts with copper. And copper it plays a role in the perpetuation of skin discolorations. So there's that. I don't necessarily believe all the hype that you can come across about copper peptides. If anything, I think they're becoming more dated. There's a lot of really interesting peptides that have been developed in the last 3 to 5 years that I think are much more fascinating. They are more targeted. I love the various peptides, some of which we used in our Pro Collagen Multi-Peptide Booster, that are capable of targeting those minor collagens. Even though they're considered a minor collagen, they're considered minor because the skin doesn't have a large percentage of them. Like we have collagen 1 is the primary collagen. Copper peptides act on that. Collagen 3 is the next most common collagen in skin. But there are minor collagens, such as collagen 4 and collagen 17, that play very precise and specific roles in specific parts of skin that are really essential for its support, its foundation, its buoyancy. So it's really, you want to kind of look past just interacting with collagen 1, which is what a lot of the first generation peptides did, some better than others, but there's just so much more we know now about the other various, again, minor because there's not a great percentage of them, collagens in the skin, but they play very critical roles, particularly in regards to firmness and resiliency. So I like it for that. Andrea says, "Hi Brian, happy Valentine's Day." Oh, thank you. I totally forgot to mention it's Valentine's Day. Where is my head? And my adorable husband gave me a box of chocolates, which I thought was so sweet, because he picked out these really cool dark chocolates. I'm a huge dark chocolate fan. So that was nice. I did not get him anything, so I will have to figure out something nice to do for him tonight. What are your thoughts on enzymatic exfoliating ingredients? And also, is it okay to use exfoliants on areas of skin that have numerous warty growths, skin tags, etc.? So would you recommend? You'd want to, for your second question, you would want to pay close attention to how those growths respond. Those exfoliating type ingredients, whether it's an acid like an AHA or an enzymatic exfoliant like papain or bromelain, they are not going to cause those bumps to go away or really look any smaller, recede in size. You'll probably see some changes for the better in their texture. They're not going to feel as rough. They will become more smooth. But just wanted to put it out there that the growths of that nature need to be physically removed by a dermatologist. Do not try to cut off skin tags on your own. You could cause a significant wound to your skin. You really need to know what you're doing. And the other issue is with skin tags is they often grow in places like along here that, think about like trying to reach that area and successfully cut something off. Even if you're looking into a mirror, it just sounds like a recipe for trouble. Don't do that. And then for the first part of your question, what's my take on enzymatic exfoliants? I think they are interesting. These specific enzymes, they work by denaturing proteins, which skin cells are made up of. That's why, keratinocyte, which eventually becomes a corneocyte, but they come from and are made up of proteins, which these enzymes readily act on. The problem is controlling them. Controlling them both in the formula, because they can be very tricky to stabilize and keep stable or keep active. And then if you do that, you got to also figure out how you're going to control their activity on skin, because unlike the exfoliating acids, which have a shutoff point, if you will, the enzymes just keep going. And so once they get through those corneocyte proteins that have built up, you want those cells to jump ship. They are making your complexion look dull and blah. They're causing rough texture, bumpy texture. The enzymes will then, unless they're programmed to kind of, for lack of a better description, self-destruct, after they've done their primary job on skin, they just keep going, and they will start digesting the living proteins as well, which you don't want. You don't want that. That can lead to irritation, barrier impairment, other problems that we don't associate with acid-based exfoliants. So, all right, I hope that helps. I am a little bit past time here, but I thank you all for sticking with me, and I hope that you have learned some new things about some of these favorite ingredients of Paula's Choice. And I will be back next month with a new chat, new topic, and maybe no, I don't think we're going to talk about a new product next month. I think that might have to wait till a little bit later. But as always, we've got some exciting stuff in the works for you here at Paula's Choice. You're going to love it. Talk to you soon.